There is a certain kind of tired that sleep cannot fix, not the tired that comes from working too much, and not the tired that disappears after a long night of rest. This one sits deeper. It lives somewhere between your thoughts and your memories. It is the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying too much for too long. Maybe you know the feeling. Life moved quickly. Too many things happened. Too many emotions arrived too early, and certain moments forced you to grow faster than you were ready for. Sometimes you find yourself wondering quietly whether those experiences damaged something inside you. Maybe you've even asked yourself if life changed you in ways that cannot be repaired. But psychology offers a different perspective. People who have gone through a lot of hardship often develop a very unusual form of strength. Not loud strength, not the kind people celebrate or applaud, but a quieter form of resilience that slowly reshapes the brain itself. It is a strength built not from comfort but from adaptation. And when we understand how the brain works, we begin to see that the experiences that once felt overwhelming may have quietly built one of the rarest forms of psychological strength. When someone goes through too much in life, something subtle begins to change inside their mind. At first, it feels like damage. Your thoughts become louder, your awareness becomes sharper, and you begin noticing details that other people ignore. You read the emotional atmosphere of a room within seconds. Before anyone speaks, you already feel the tension. Before a disagreement begins, you sense the shift in tone. This heightened awareness can feel exhausting because your mind rarely switches completely off. Psychologists describe this pattern as heightened threat detection. When the brain experiences repeated emotional stress or unpredictable environments, the nervous system adapts by becoming more sensitive to signals. Imagine a security system installed in a quiet building. At first, the sensors remain calm, but if danger appears again and again, the system becomes more alert and more responsive. The brain behaves in a similar way. After difficult experiences, your mind begins scanning the environment more carefully. It notices tone of voice, body language, and subtle emotional signals that many people overlook. Over time, this awareness becomes automatic. But here is the part most people misunderstand. This sensitivity is not only a reaction to pain, it is also an adaptation. The brain is trying to protect you by predicting what might happen next. It studies patterns and emotional dynamics, connecting signals before events even unfold. This is why many people who have faced hardship develop deep emotional intelligence. They learn to understand people not through formal study, but through lived experience. Their brains simply learned to observe more carefully. If you have been through a lot, there is a question that often appears quietly in your thoughts. Why did all of this happen to me? And sometimes another thought follows right behind it. Maybe it changed me in ways that cannot be fixed. But psychology suggests something very different. You may not be broken. You may simply have a nervous system that learned to adapt earlier than most people. In psychological research, there is a concept known as post-traumatic growth. This idea describes how certain difficult experiences can eventually lead to deep psychological development. This growth does not happen immediately, and it certainly does not happen without struggle. But over time, the brain reorganizes itself. Your priorities begin to shift, and things that once seemed extremely important lose their power. Meanwhile, things that once went unnoticed suddenly become meaningful. People who experience post-traumatic growth often report becoming more reflective and more aware of life's deeper layers. They develop stronger empathy for others, and feel less interested in superficial approval. Instead, they begin searching for meaning. In this way, the struggle that once felt like chaos slowly becomes a source of depth. This does not mean suffering is good or necessary. It simply means the human brain has a remarkable ability to adapt. To understand this rare strength, we need to look inside the brain itself. Three major systems play an important role in how we process difficult experiences: the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex. Think of these three systems as parts of a psychological navigation system that guides how we respond to the world. The amygdala acts like the brain's alarm center. Its job is to detect potential threats and alert the body when something feels unsafe. When life becomes unpredictable or emotionally intense, the amygdala becomes highly active. It begins scanning constantly for signs of danger or tension. This is why you may notice emotional shifts long before others do. But the amygdala does not work alone. The hippocampus helps store experiences as memories. However, it does more than simply record events. It also records patterns. Your brain begins learning which situations lead to conflict, which behaviors lead to disappointment, and which environments feel safe. Over time, the hippocampus becomes like a library of maps, helping the brain recognize familiar emotional landscapes. Then there is the prefrontal cortex, located just behind the forehead. This region is responsible for reflection, decision making, and emotional regulation. When someone faces difficult life situations, the prefrontal cortex often becomes stronger because it must constantly process complicated emotions. It learns to slow impulsive reactions and replace them with thoughtful responses. Imagine these three systems working together. The amygdala scans the horizon for signals, the hippocampus remembers the past, and the prefrontal cortex chooses the path forward. When these systems adapt through experience, they create a rare psychological ability: the capacity to remain aware without completely collapsing under pressure. If you have gone through too much, this strength may already exist within you. The key is learning how to use it intentionally. Psychology suggests several ways to transform sensitivity into resilience. The first step is turning awareness into insight. Your brain already notices patterns, but the real power comes from directing that awareness inward. Psychologists call this ability metacognition, which simply means observing your own thoughts. Instead of being trapped inside your mind, you step slightly outside it and begin asking quiet questions. Why did that moment affect me so strongly? Why do certain situations trigger anxiety? Why do some people drain my energy while others bring calm? This kind of reflection transforms experience into understanding. Your past stops feeling random and begins to look like information your mind can learn from. The second principle is redefining emotional sensitivity. Many people who have endured difficult experiences believe they are simply too sensitive. But neuroscience suggests sensitivity is not weakness. It is simply a nervous system that processes signals more deeply. Think of it like sound equipment. Some microphones capture only loud noises, while others detect the smallest vibrations. Your brain may simply be a high sensitivity instrument. It detects emotional shifts, hidden tension, and subtle signals in conversations. When you stop treating this sensitivity as a flaw, it becomes perception, and perception is a form of intelligence. Another important principle is practicing psychological distance. One challenge of heightened awareness is emotional immersion. Every situation can begin to feel personal, and every conflict can feel heavy. Psychologists recommend a technique called psychological distancing. Instead of asking why something is happening to you, you ask what is happening in the situation. This small shift activates the prefrontal cortex and moves the brain away from emotional reactivity toward observation. You begin seeing situations as patterns of behavior rather than personal attacks. Observation creates space, and space allows clarity to emerge. Finally, there is the step of transforming survival into direction. Many people who have endured hardship spend years simply surviving. They focus on getting through each day and holding themselves together. But eventually, a different question becomes possible. What can this experience teach me? Research on resilience shows that meaning changes how memories are stored in the brain. When painful experiences are connected to growth, the brain begins reorganizing them. Instead of representing failure, they become chapters of development, moments that shaped perspective and deepened awareness. This transformation turns survival into direction. There is a simple mental model that captures all of this. Imagine your life experiences as stars scattered across a dark sky. At first, they appear random and disconnected, painful memories spread across time. But the human brain has a remarkable ability. It connects those stars, drawing lines between them and forming constellations. These constellations represent meaning, identity, and understanding. When someone has gone through too much, their sky simply contains more stars, more experiences, more emotional depth, and more psychological insight. When those experiences are connected, they create a map for understanding the world in ways others may never fully develop. If you have gone through too much, you may sometimes feel different from others, more observant, more reflective, and more cautious about who you trust. At times you may even feel older than your age. That difference can feel lonely. But psychology suggests something important. The same experiences that created that heaviness also built a rare internal capacity, the ability to understand complexity, to read emotional landscapes, and to remain aware during difficult moments. Over time, this awareness can evolve into wisdom, not loud wisdom, but quiet wisdom, the kind that allows you to move through life with patience and clarity. So, if you have ever wondered whether everything you faced left you weaker, consider another possibility. Those experiences may have slowly built a mind capable of seeing the world with unusual depth, and that kind of strength is rare. Not because few people struggle, but because few people learn to transform their struggles into understanding. You already carry the raw material. The rest is simply learning how to see it.